Thank you everyone for joining us. Today we're talking about Sage 100, a couple of important security updates that are coming in the near future. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I am so pleased to be joined today by Lockstep, David Fryoff, Solutions Engineer, Maya Green over at Fortis. He's the Senior VP, ERP Sales, Robert Ullman, ERP Sales Consultant over at Fortis, and Jeff Cox will be the primary presenter today. He's the ERP Product Director over at Fortis, working with all the Sage product lines. And just a little bit about the companies. Lockstep is an award-winning accounts receivable automation software tool. It connects the world's accounting teams to help them better work together. They are a pioneer in connected accounting. They develop tools and platforms for fintech developers and accounting teams to automate workflows between accounting systems. That today we're talking about Sage 100. And as we all know, Sage 100 is the heart of our business. We're running Sage 100. For developers, Lockstep API is the easy, modern platform for building fintech applications that work with customers' accounting systems like Sage 100. For accounting teams, Lockstep's applications automate accounts receivables and accounts payable workflows, improving efficiency and cash flow. Fortis is a leading provider of integrated payment technology solutions to American merchants. They're differentiated because they have built strategic partnerships from over 25 years by integrating and developing those relationships that are key to help drive down your cost of credit card processing. And they've developed very strong relationships with companies like Lockstep to automate that payment processing part of accounts receivable. And so pleased to present the contact information here, which I will flash up at the end of the webinar. But I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Jeff Cox over at Fortis to talk about the two changes that are upcoming here in Sage 100. Thank you, Jeff.
Very pleased today to be joined with our friends from Lockstep. We are going to discuss some recent announced changes to Sage 100 that may impact your ability to operate your business. I just did want to mention, because this is Sage 100 focused, but the changes do affect some other Sage products like Sage 300. So if you happen to have jumped on and use a different product, let's talk about those offline, and we can get you correct versions and things like that. If you happen to be a different user than Sage 100. Adrian covered the details, but if you do have questions, we'd love to try and answer those. Put those in the questions box, please. Quickly, the agenda for today, we'll review the details around Sage's disabling of basic email authentication and moving to Oauth. And then the end of support for older transport layer security, or TLS versions, and then the options your organization has so that your staff can continue to work effectively. And we'll pretty much stay on topic with those two items. So jumping right into it, issue number one is the disabling of basic authentication. I know there's been a lot of question around this one. The announcement originally said October 1st that basic auth was going to be disabled, and then there was further clarification from Sage that said no, that's not happening on October, that it was going to be pushed out to December 31st, and there's still some question on whether that's actually going to happen on December 31st. Just so you're aware, we continue to get updates daily on whether that is going to be disabled, but we'll continue to provide updates as we get them. Most Sage versions use a form of basic auth. And what does that mean for your business? It means that you won't be able to send out emails that, including invoices, orders, quotes, remittance advice, and then you won't be able to send reports internally using that email system. So it's a big impact, obviously. What is basic authentication? So basic auth sends your username and password with each document being sent out of Sage via email. Microsoft has deemed that this is not secure, so they are adopting Oauth as the replacement for basic auth. Oauth is an open standard authorization framework or protocol. It provides apps with the ability to secure designated access. So for example, you can tell, and this is one that I use often, so forgive me if it doesn't apply, but you can tell Twitter that it's okay for LinkedIn to access your Twitter profile or post updates to your timeline without having to give LinkedIn your Twitter password. So it's basically sharing only need to know information. This improves the security of your account significantly because if Twitter suffers a security breach, your LinkedIn password remains uncompromised. So the Sage 100 security upgrade, Microsoft notified customers and vendors back in September 2021. Google did the same in early 2021. And then obviously Sage customers were informed in April about products and upgrades that they need to do. If you are on a different version of Sage 100 that is not 2021.4 or 2022.1, then we recommend that you upgrade to one of those two versions. So again, if it's an older version of 2021.4, you potentially could just need a patch update. If you're on 2021.1, for example, you can update to .4. If you're on an older version, 2019, 2018, we recommend that you upgrade to a more current version, at least one of those two versions, 2021.4 or 2022.1, to support email services using Oauth. Okay, so essentially to wrap that up, the danger is that you lose the ability to send out your external emails from within Sage. Those are your orders, your quotes, your invoices, and also internal reporting. We recommend, or that you will be required to upgrade or update to a higher patch for 2021 or 2022. There is a basic auth stopgap or temporary relief there. You can use an SMTP relay service, and those are supported in Sage. Those potentially are going to be temporary until until the basic auth is completely gone, but that is an option for a temporary relief using an SMTP relay service. And then obviously there's manual options such as saving documents locally to your computer and then emailing them out via another method. But that's not the best workaround for those customers that send bulk emails, bulk invoices or statements to customers daily. Okay, so those are the two. If you check in your Sage 100 today, go to the About section. You can see what version you're on, and then check against these two versions, 2021.4 and 2022.1. Okay, let's jump into the next issue, transport layer security or TLS. Sage is disabling the use of version 1.0 and 1.1 beginning at September of next year, 2023. So we've got time to get to the correct versions. Most Sage versions use these older TLS versions, and also something to be aware of is your hardware that you use, your servers, your client workstations, making sure that all of the hardware, third-party software, ISV software is all up to date and using a newer version, at least 1.2 of TLS. The major impact is that if you are not updated to the correct patch or upgraded to the correct version by October 1st of 2023, so just about a year from today, Sage will put your product into a read-only mode, meaning you'll have access to your data, you just won't be able to update or do anything new within the software. So it's important that you upgrade or update your product version. Okay, what is TLS? So Transport Layer Security, or TLS, is a widely adopted security protocol designed to facilitate privacy and data security for communications over the internet. A primary use case of TLS is the encrypting the communication between web applications and servers, such as browsers loading a website. TLS is evolved from secure sockets layer, which we've all heard of that, SSL, and TLS encryption can protect web applications from data breaches and other attacks. Today, TLS protected HTTPS is a standard practice for websites. Think back 5-10 years ago, websites were HTTP. HTTPS was only really used if you were selling a product or collecting secure or private information on your website, in which case you needed an SSL document. Now it's very common for every website to have HTTPS. And sorry for the blurriness of the graphics on the screen. Those are just the notices that have gone out as notifications. Okay, Sage read-only mode. What does that mean? Once the software is in a read-only mode, you're only going to have the ability to view your data. So you're not going to be able to add any additional data. You won't be able to print or export data, change transactions, make payroll updates, and payroll calculations will not work. So it's very important that you upgrade to a compatible version or to a compatible patch. Now, one thing I did want to point out, because I'm gonna go in next to compatible versions for TLS, and you will see that they are different from the basic Auth Oauth issue. So these are two completely issues. You can be on version 2019.4, for example, and which has TLS 1.2, and you'll be totally fine. However, if you email from your Sage system today, when basic Auth is sunsetted or no longer allowed, 2019.4 will not be able to email. So even though you'll be okay on the TLS 1.2, basic Auth will be disabled when that happens. So again, two different issues. So you're going to see two different versions between the two issues. If you're on 2019.4, 2020.1, or 2021.0, these all, or higher, these all use TLS today, and you will not have issues in October of 2023. So you'll be fine. Those are your Sage versions. Now you want to keep in mind that this does also affect your hardware and other applications. So the software that your server is running, you'll want to double check and make sure you're updated, your server is updated, and your clients operating systems are updated so that they are using TLS 1.2. Okay. Okay, so here's the solution. Sage is disabling the use of TLS 1.0 and 1.1. If you do not upgrade, you'll see the upgrade versions there. If you are on a lower patch, it may be just as simple as updating the patch, which is obviously a lot easier and more cost effective than needing to upgrade, and then making sure that your software and hardware, the software on your hardware is updated. Okay, digital roadmap planning. I wanted to just cover this briefly because you run into a lot of this right now. Supply chain issues, if you've got to upgrade your hardware. You've got a lot of customers in similar situations, so you potentially could have a backlog. So we recommend that you contact your business partner today and schedule a consultation with them. They obviously know you, they know your system. They will be able to point you in the right direction and tell you exactly what you need. They will be able to get you on a schedule and make sure that there's no interruptions in your business. Obviously, if you're on a version that's 2019 or older, your Sage, your partner, us, we recommend that you do upgrade to a newer version. For Sage 100, Sage supports N-2, so meaning newest version and then 2 previous versions are supported by Sage. And so 2019 is essentially unsupported. However, we saw back in the TLS, if you're on a patch 4, it does support TLS 1.2. But we do recommend that you get on the most recent version of Sage 100. So plan today, because if you don't plan, it gets worse. And even when you do plan, expect that there's going to be disruptions, especially if you are needing to source hardware, that there's potential backlog with your partner's scheduling and for equipment that may be needed. Okay, I want to just take a little bit talk about Fortis, the company that I work for. Why are we, presenting a presentation today about Sage 100 and potential hiccups in the business? Well, we are a payments company. We developed integrations for Sage 100 to be able to process payments directly in Sage 100. So these changes also affect us, and it affects our customers' ability to send out emails so that their customers can make a payment. It's a product we call Click to Pay. So you send out an email to a customer. It's got a link on there that allows them to click on that link in the email and make a credit card or ACH payment. So we have to make sure that our systems are compatible with the correct Sage versions, so that our customers can allow it's going to be confusing, but our customers can allow their customers to make payments to them. So we've had to do some updates on our side to our system to make sure that our customers are compatible. And so you as our customers will need to also make updates to your systems to make sure that you stay compatible and that you can still continue to email your customers and access your Sage system. We've got, as Adrian mentioned in the beginning, we've got now over 25 years of experience in the payment business. A lot of our solutions are white labeled. Other processors use our platform. We have a proprietary gateway that is connected to Sage 100 and other Sage products. So we're not limited to just Sage 100. That's something that I wanted to mention as well. We've offered some solutions today for you to jump on a new patch, which is a lot of times the easiest solution, upgrading to a new version. But what we haven't mentioned is potentially migrating to another Sage product that offers consistent updates without having to upgrade and install patches. So something like a Sage Intacct or a Sage X3 product, where they are cloud-based and updates are pushed out periodically. We've got a lot of expertise in the business. We work through your partners. So we work closely with most of the business partners in the Sage ecosystem. We've been working with most of them for well over 10 years and have developed very deep relationships with them. We provide all types of processing, whether that's in person, through modern devices that are connected to your Sage system, so somebody can insert their card or can tap on the terminal for the chip card read, e-commerce, and obviously your payments on invoices in your Sage system. So just some of the ways that we offer the ability for you to transact. One exciting thing that I wanted to mention today is that we have a promotion right now where we potentially fund some of your upgrade or updates to your Sage system. Part of that is potentially through savings that we can offer through a consultation with one of our sales representatives. We have a promo also that includes a rebate back. Based on the amount of processing that you do, you could earn a credit towards your upgrade. We have a team that has the ability to do a live demo with you one-on-one. It's not recorded. It gives you the ability to ask questions and really do a deep dive into the way that you process or the way that you use Sage 100 so that we can help you. You've got our contact information on the screen there, and you're welcome to reach out to any one of us so that we can assist you with your needs. With that, I'd like to turn the time over now, if I could, to Whitney and David from Lockstep, and allow them to tell you a little bit about their products and services.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for that intro. Like you said, my name is Whitney Gilstrap, and thanks for joining us today and taking the time to join us. I'm joined by David Auth, who's one of our solution experts that will really get into the product a bit more and show you. But we're excited to talk to you today about, really elevating your collections process with your Sage 100 instance and how you can automate a lot of that. And at a high level, what we're going to go into is the impact of your unpaid invoices and some of those data entry mistakes that can lead to DSO creeping up. Why it's important to invest in AI automation, and I'll go into some of our own benchmarks that we've established through our own customer base, as well as increasing automated collections activities and how that correlates to a reduction in DSO. And like I mentioned, David's going to go ahead and close it out with a walkthrough of how we integrate with Sage 100 and some of the features that can help with your collections process. First, just a little bit about us. I know that we gave the brief overview up front, so I won't go into too much detail, but we develop accounting tools and automate accounts receivable automation tools to help really speak between the systems so that there's not that manual collections process behind it. And I won't list out all of these accolades here, but we do boast a lot of these awards that we're really proud of and wanted to share with you guys as well. All right, so first up, just a little kind of background. I'm sure most of you know this, but these are some of the challenges that we see with the manual collections process. I always like to say that marketers have HubSpot, sales have tools like Outreach or Sales Handy, customer success has Zendesk or Intercom, but really one of the most vital parts of your business doesn't have a lot of automation, And without some of that automation, and you're continuing to scale and add more customers, it's really hard to keep up with the amount of communications that need to go out. And because a lot of these apps aren't integrated, sometimes you're kind of left stuck, copying and pasting accounting info between the apps. And what that really leads to is this, here's what we find is a lot of reasons for your late payments. And what they have is a ripple effect on your accounts receivable in several ways that are listed out here, but including increased days sales outstanding, or DSO, reduced cash flow, and increased collections costs. If a large percentage of your customers are late payers, they can cause DSO to expand enough to snare you into a cash trap. And late payments increase DSO and the amount of money your company has invested in accounts receivable. These cause bottlenecks that can make reducing DSO to get out of that cash trap a really big challenge, especially if you don't have an automated tool readily available. And this is really why deciding how to handle late payment behavior is super important. So just jumping in a little bit to our benchmarks on manual accounts receivable activities. So this is without a tool in place. And AR staff without an AR automation tool require around 25 to 40 minutes per phone call. And this would include prep time to get information together, call time with customers, post-call administration, write-ups, even down to reporting. And through the combination of phone calls and emails, the average AR staff can complete around 40 to 60 outbound communications per day. And really what that means is, with the limited capacity of staff, that means that less than 10% of customers are contacted after invoice presentment, because staff is typically focused on chasing down those 60 days past due or above. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is just the data. I wanted to give you a little bit of context around the data before I go into the different benchmarks. And what's really exciting about this is that it's all data from our customer base that are in production and using our tool, and it's tracked over a 10-month period of time. I'll let you read the slide, but we had a good diversification around industries, revenue size, and a good mid-market representational revenue size of around 205 million. And in most of these customer interactions, a business case and ROI model was created, and this ROI includes, the relevant measurement for that customer. So that could be if it was DSO or average days delinquent, maybe your total receivables, and then from there a target for improvement was established. This is something that we've put into practice. We made this a standard practice for our customer base as a result. So each year we look back and pull out what those original measurements were, and then compare them to what they're currently at now. And in addition to a great diversification, we had a good range and variation in the number of accounts, the number of size and invoices, and a mixture of customers that were heavily adoption from the automation to ones that weren't leveraging the automation quite as much. So the three benchmarks that we analyzed were from our base, and the first one is the automated communications. And first we examined the impact of automated communications. And these can be anything from these automated communications include reminders, statements, and past due notices. And what they replace really are, manual updating of spreadsheets and comments and post-it notes or 3-ring binders as reminders to email this person, maybe even an Outlook reminder that I need to follow up with this person. But at the heart of these, they should really be your voice, and they should be completely customizable and sound like you. They should be tailored for your customer type. So if you segment your customers, you might have a different communication served up relevant to that customer segment. And they should be specific to your credit policy as well. There's a different message at 30, 60, 90 days, and that can be varied by the customer type. And when we compared pre and post implementation of automation, we looked at companies not using the automation, and the average ADD was 39. But with the automated communications enabled, the average days delinquent dropped to 18, which is about over a 53% improvement. And our customers found that communication is a critical success factor, and automation was a big part of that. The next benchmark looks at the importance of human touch and tools for that collector. When we asked our community what they find rewarding about their role, there were two factors that really dominated that conversation. One was building relationships, and the other was helping others. And in this, you can see that the impact of automated communications compared to 100% manual collector communications, and the best combination was leveraging really both of those, a personalized communication with automation and, just a good old-fashioned phone call. In this first column, excuse me, a fully automated communication-centric approach is an option that some of our customers have employed, and it's really effective at driving your customers to that self-service portal and accelerating their payments. And while this might be the perfect approach for some smaller companies, it's often not the right approach for larger, more white glove or strategic customer types. And likewise, the manual collector-centric approach, which is that last column right there, can also be effective as represented by the 34% past due of customers outreach using automated communications, but with the majority being their AR teams calling or manually emailing. But really interesting is the combination of the two approaches is, as you can see, by far the most effective, as represented in our study by a 16% past due. So then our final benchmark really looks at customer self-service, and it's a way of enabling your customers to complete activities on their own, rather than your AR team having to do an extra activity like, I'm sure you guys have all heard this, but can you send me that invoice again? Or I never received your invoice. So it really eliminates that step. And using the automated customer communications to drive self-service was a clear winner. We heard our customers loudly and clearly that Lockstep and prospects that use the automated payments based on best practices and the move to remote work are a big lever, averaging a 14-day acceleration. And this is just one of the components of a good self-service portal. Today, ours includes a secure passwordless entry. So it's a single sign-on. They don't have to have a password to create it. They can do payments, ACH, credit card, promise to pay. They can do dispute management. And then, really they can just self-serve on invoices or contact information or payment history. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and hand it over. I'll present this slide, Adrian, and then David's going to talk through this one, and then he's going to go ahead and present after this slide goes through. But David?
Thanks, Winnie. Yeah, if you could build it out completely, I'd appreciate it. So you may be wondering, how does this all work with Sage? So we have a sink that pulls your Sage 100 data into our system. And sitting on top of that data is our AR sequencing. This is the heart of our system. And this is what generates those automated communications out to the customer. This could be invoice presentment. This could be statements as well as dunning letters. And we'll show that in the demo today. Then those drive the customer to our self-service portal where they can make that payment. As well as when a human touch needs to get involved, so a person on your team, we can create that activity management for that user or that collector to be able to reach out to that customer. Again, driving that customer to that self-service portal to try to pull that cash in faster. So as I mentioned, we're going to start off today in the demo in the automation piece. And as I mentioned before, this is the heart of our system. And this is what generates those automated communications out to the customer, as well as activities when the user needs to reach out. And we do understand that you might have different groups or segments of customers. So we have the capability of taking your groups or segments of customers and grouping them together in order to have a different message for each one. Then each of the segments or groups have a set of steps on them. As you can see here, we have dunning steps like first reminders. And then as well as we have our invoice presentment step or our statement step. And typically in that manual process, we find that most prospects are chasing past due and they're being more reactive versus proactive. So ways we can help you be more proactive, for example, is we have a invoice coming due step that generates it 10 to 7 days before the due date, encouraging that customer to make a payment to try to pull that cash in faster. As well as if you currently have credit limits or put customers on credit hold, would you have the ability to automate an email out to the customer or create a task for the user when the customer, say, hits 80% of the credit limit, encourage them to make that payment to try to prevent them from being put on credit hold. If they do get put on it, we could automate a task for the user to reach out to alleviate that issue and get them off that credit hold status. Then each of these steps that do generate an automated email have a communication template associated with it. Our system does come with a standard best practice of templates. You can create your own, as well as you can modify ours. So the great thing about our templates is that they're personalized to the customer. So you've got the customer's name, the aging information, as well as we can put invoice level information in the body here. And it says sincerely the assigned user's name and phone number. That way it looks like a personal email from the collector to the customer, even though it's an auto-generated email. We find this really helps with our customers when they're going from that manual process to an automated one. So the next section is the account overview or account detail for a customer. So typically that manual process, you're going into Sage 100 to look up that customer's detail, the transactional detail, and a lot of times the notes of that customer are in a different space, let's say inside of Sage 100, or it's inside of an Excel spreadsheet. So we're able to put that all into one spot for a collector to view all the information on a specific customer. So they're able to come in here and see all the open transactions for this customer, how this customer typically pays. In this case, they paid 10 days late, as well as all the activities that have been done against that account. And we take it one step further in the fact that typically when an activity is created, whether it's being done by the automation or by a user, an invoice or group of invoices is typically tagged to that activity. What it does is that gives you a record not only at the customer level, but also at the individual invoice level of all the different times you reach out to the customer about that specific invoice. You can click on it to view them, so you can hover over to view the email that was sent or the notes from the phone call that was made. Or you can click on View Details to pull up that activity. So in this case, we're looking at a past due notice that went out to Kennedy Court. And in this notice, we have our View Statement button. This is our link to our self-service portal. As Whitney mentioned before, it is essentially a single sign-on link, so there's no need for the customer to have to remember a username and password, nor do they have to sign up for it. All they have to do is just receive an email out of the system containing that link. So for one of your customers, and we just received this, go ahead and open up that link and get into the self-service portal. And so typically in that manual process, we find that a lot of collectors get a lot of requests for PDF copies of invoices from their customers in order to get that payment to happen. So the great thing about our portal is that the customer can come in here, select an invoice or a group of invoices. They can easily download those PDF copies of those invoices as well as make that payment. They can pay by credit card or ACH. They can save that payment information for future use, as well as they can enroll in AutoPay, which will automatically pay their invoices on their due date or a specific day of the month. They can also send a message. So let's say they're tax exempt and trying to send you a tax exempt form. They can easily fill out that subjective message and upload that form. Or if they dispute an invoice, they can upload supporting docs for that dispute here as well. If they are disputing that invoice, they can click on the dispute tab and be able to select that reason code, add that message and submit it. The great thing is our reason codes are completely customizable and you can have as many as you need. You can have a small set for the customer to choose from and a broader set for the user to choose from as well. They can also do a promise to pay. They can select that promise to pay date, add that message and submit it. And the great thing is that in that manual process, typically this is being tracked in somebody's calendar or in notes, and they have to go into Sage 100 to see if the customer paid no matter what. The great thing about our product is that it tracks it for them, and if they fulfill the promise to pay, then the system closes the activity and the collector doesn't have to worry about it. It only alerts them when the customer breaks it. So it's a little bit of time savings there for the collector. And they also have the ability to take this grid and they can export to Excel. They can also view all their closed invoices as well as payments, history of messages with the collector. They can see the collector's profile, as well as any documents you upload for them. These could be W-9 forms, contracts, anything at the customer level you want them to be able to have access to. Now we're going to go back into receivables, and we're going to get into the day in the life of the collector. Now, typically in that manual process, if you're working off that aging spreadsheet, the collector is going to that aging spreadsheet to figure out who they're going to call next. They're going to Sage 100 to look up that customer, to the email to send that email, and then back either to Sage or to that spreadsheet to add their notes. And so they're working out of typically about 3 different systems. So the great thing about our product, again, is we're able to consolidate that into one spot for the collector. So when they log in the morning, they can easily see how they're doing this month. And then you've got the next best activity. This essentially is that aging spreadsheet. But this is generated based on the automation. So you actually get to control what shows up in this list, as well as in what order it shows up in, the way the collectors are working, what you want them to work, when you want them to work it. And then you have your messages section here. This essentially is a collector's calendar and their email. So this is where they can see any follow-ups due today or past due, any unread emails, as well as any broken promises. And when they're ready to work the first one on the list, all you have to do is click on it, and it's going to pull up that activity as well as that customer level information. So before they make that phone call or send that email, they can easily click the drop down here to view that customer information, including credit information, like our LocksUp credit score. They can also see historical trends, so average days late information, if there's been any broken promises or disputes in the last 2 years, as well as the current aging, as well as other things that we can highlight is transactional information. So they can see payment information, as well as any open invoices, as well as they can view the customer's access to self-service portal. I always like to highlight this because if the collector gets in the habit of checking this before they make that phone call or send the email and the customer hasn't accessed it in a while or at all and they talk it up, we find that really does help drive those customers to the self-service portal. If they are sending that email, they come to the email tab here and be able to select that template or fill out the email themselves. They can easily come to the attachments tab here and be able to attach those PDF copies of the invoices, as well as a report like a statement, or they can browse their computer and attach something from their computer as well. If they do get an email from that customer or they're on the phone with them and they receive that promise to pay information, they can fill out the promise to pay themselves on behalf of the customer and mark that the customer promised. And the system, like I mentioned before, will track it. If the customer breaks that promise to pay, then the actual part down here will be filled out by the system, mark it as broken, give you the amount that they paid and the date that they paid it, as well as it'll alert the collector here of that broken promise. Now, let's say this is a troubled customer and you're trying to follow up in a couple days in advance just to make sure the customer does fulfill that promise to pay. You can schedule a follow-up here for yourself. The great thing is that, like the promise to pay, if that invoice gets paid before the 5th, and then the system's going to close this activity as well as a follow-up does not need anymore because the invoice has been paid. So again, a little bit of time savings there for the collector. The last thing I want to show is this save and next item feature. This is where we see a lot of time savings for that collector, because this button here alone is equivalent to that collector going to that aging spreadsheet, adding their notes, take that next customer, going to Sage, look up that customer, to the email to send the email, and back to that spreadsheet to add their notes. So we find that this saves our customers' collectors on average when they're coming from that manual process to an automated one about 5 to 10 minutes when they're transitioning from one customer to the next. The last section I want to go over is some reporting out of the system. So we're going to start off in the dashboard. This is where we can get that high-level reporting. So right now we're logged in as the collections manager, which shows, sorry, my internet's running a little bit slow, which shows the entire company roll-up as a whole, as well as they can look at each individual collector to see how that collector is doing with the customers assigned to them. And if you are a multi-company, you can view the dashboard by company as well. Other things to highlight is you can see your basic information here, as well as projected cash receipts for the next 7, 30 days, current month end, and next month end, as well as previous months, current month what's projected versus what has actually been brought in, and your next 2 months projections. You can also view these by weeks. These projections are based upon 5 different reasons. And the first one is the promise to pay, which we've talked through. Second one is the expect to pay. And that's what the collector expects the customer to pay, but it hasn't officially gotten the promise to pay yet. The third is predicted payment value. This is one of the ones our customer really like. What it is we've developed an algorithm that looks at a customer's payment history, predicts when the invoice will be paid based on that payment history. So it really helps to take that guesswork out of the cash projections and really base it on that customer's payment history. The fourth is the due date and the fifth is unresolved. That's when it's past the due date and past that predicted date, doesn't have a promise to pay or expect to pay on it. And anything within the dashboard is all drillable, so you could see what invoices make up that cash projection as well. The next section is the team activity. So typically in that manual process, it's really tough to track how the team's doing. So you're able to come in here and easily see how the team's doing as a whole, as well as how each individual collector is doing. And you can see it in a wide variety of different ways, including a custom date range, and it is refreshable, so it's real-time data as well. You can also see self-service usage, so how many visitors today versus this week, as well as payments made today versus this week. You can view your current AR aging by due date or by invoice date. You can see your average days late by invoice amount, who your top customers are, as well as your average days late trend and your prior 6-month DSO trend. So other things to highlight that we would go into a little more detail on a full demo would be we do have what we call alerts, which allow any kind of reporting out of the system to be emailed to you with a spreadsheet attached, as well as things can be more marked to be added to your favorites. So that's typically when we go through my demo today. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Let us know if you guys have any questions. Thank you so much again. We hope to see you on our next webinar. Take care, everybody.